Welcome to the Miracle You, guiding you on the journey towards finding passion and purpose, and how to discover, create, and live a life by your design. Whether your success has been plentiful or your missed opportunities have been overwhelming, we can help you become a more empowered, masterful person and show you how to share your gift with the world. It's time to inspire change from within with the host of the Miracle You, Vince Kramer.
Hello, imagination. I'm Vince Kramer, your host, and welcome to the Miracle You, where you learn about the magic of living your life by finding the example in real life. One of the things that we share in our programs for the people who come to work with us is that it's important to understand two of the concepts of creating. The fact that there is an active and a passive component to creating your life. The active is intent and the passive is allowing. And what we're allowing is not for things to happen for us or not for things to happen to us, or we're allowing the messages or the promptings to come into our lives so we can take action on them and then move towards our intent, move to create what it is that we say we want in our lives. These promptings come to each and every one of us. The difference for many of us is that we fail to take action, or we take some action, but a lot of the action that we take has to do with bringing it in and running it through our mental capacity to see if it makes sense or if it's going to work out or if we think that we can do it. But what I'm asking each and every one of you to do is take these promptings as true guidance and take action on them without trying to figure out why it won't work. Because that is the natural direction for us as human beings, is to figure out why it won't work instead of leaning towards why it will. I'm with Giselle Toner today, and Giselle is a certified strategic intervention life coach and has been teaching yoga for over 30 years. She has a yoga teacher training school for those who want to become yoga teachers themselves. She also teaches courses in Ayurveda, having been trained personally by Deepak Chopra and David Simon in La Jolla, California in 1998. Specializing in coaching those who feel broken by unfortunate circumstances and unfulfilling relationships, she transforms her clients to become more empowered and in touch with their highest level self. Giselle uses strategic intervention life coaching, yoga, and equine wisdom coaching with horses to empower women, at-risk teens, and veterans suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. She is a public motivational speaker with online courses and holds specialized retreats in tropical destinations. Giselle Toner, are you ready to share the miracle of you with the imagination?
I am as ready as I will ever be.
Awesome. It's so good to have you here. It's we were sharing in the green room, if you will, before we started recording, that it's been a while since I was on your podcast. So I am so excited to have you on the Miracle You.
Yes, and I just wanted to say thank you so much, Vince, because this is always such an honor for someone to even want to hear anything that I've been through or the things that have brought me to where I am. So I'm really thankful. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
thank you for being here. Could you share a little bit more about you before we dig into the interview questions and what you're doing in the world right now?
Okay. Yes. So right now I've developed many different ways to help people through my own trials and tribulations of life. And I think that one of the most important things is that when you do have anything that you've been through in life that's been painful, it gives you so much more to give to someone else because you have learned how to climb out of the wreckage yourself. And that just gives you so much more to be able to share with someone else. And I've had plenty of the painful situations in life that I don't look back at as bad things at all. I look at them as blessings. So that's why I love what I do.
Well, that's excellent. In hindsight, we can always look back and try to find the gifts, but it sounds like you've learned to find the gifts and things as they happen in the now. Is that true?
Yes, for sure. We really cannot live in the past because if we do, we're going to be depressed constantly. If you are living in the future, then you're living with anxiety. So if you're living for right now, you basically just take things as they come, and there's a way to deal with everything. There's nothing that is beyond your capacity to deal with. I don't care what it is, especially if you have a spiritual connection.
Oh, and I agree with you that tremendously, and those spiritual connections. It's just learning that we've had them all along and connect in. So that's so important. But sometimes it takes some wake up calls, right, for us to step into life fully. Could you share one or two of yours?
Oh, yes. Wake up calls, I have many. I think that one of the first and probably the biggest for me was actually fearing for my life. And I was young. I was very young. I was 16 years old. I grew up in a family that was not exactly the most nurturing, loving environment. And I was always out there searching for that love. And at the age of 16, you really don't know what you're doing, basically. And I bumped into a very diabolical person who looked at me as a prime suspect for what they wanted to do. And I found myself in situations that were very life threatening. And I don't want to go into the details because it will really take a very long time, but basically it was so traumatic that that led me on the path that I am right now, to really find the true meaning of life and to say thanks to the universe for sparing my life, because I was, you know, pretty much dead, pretty much dead, but it wasn't my time. So here I am.
And we are glad you're here. So let me ask you this, because we do have young listeners, actually listeners of all ages, and this will help everyone,
Yeah.
but definitely will help those at a younger age. So you said that
Yeah.
those things led you on the path that you're on right now. First of all, how did you know
Yes.
you wanted to be on that path? And second of all, what are the types of things that happened at a young age that pulled you or pushed you or prodded you to move along that journey?
Well, I knew that I wanted to be on that path because I wanted to live. And that was the prime reason, because death was imminent. And if I didn't search for the hand that was being given to me, because there's always a hand being given to you, there's always a spiritual lifeline. Okay. And sometimes it takes for you to be near death or even die and come back to be able to say, I've seen the bad and I know that there's so much more. And I know that it's there for me because I didn't go, you know, to the other side. Not that there's anything wrong with it, because there isn't, that's a whole other subject. But I was at that place and I know what it's like. And I know that there's more for me here and that I needed to teach and I needed to show and I needed to be able to give some really great advice and paths to people that really needed it.
And when we have those experiences and we find the gifts in the past that we have learned from, then those people who are feeling similar or have been in similar situations are attracted to us. So we're able to share from a place of empathy and a place of understanding. This is going to be an
Absolutely.
interesting question because your journey really started at about 16 years old.
Yeah, probably a little bit younger with trauma, but 16 was when the bad stuff happened, really
So
bad.
do you remember back I'm going to ask you to remember back to childhood here. Do you remember back in some other wake up calls that you might have had that if you would have followed them, you wouldn't have gotten to that crisis place?
Well, that's a really interesting question. I don't really think so because when I was younger, there was already so much trauma going on in my life. And that's the reason why when I was 16, that next level of trauma felt so familiar to me. I should have ran from it, but I didn't because it felt so familiar. So I think that, everything that I was going through as a child was trauma after trauma after trauma. And then the big shebang happened. Okay. And I don't really know that there would have really been any way for me to do something differently. Although I do know that I had tried a couple of times to escape the reality of my childhood. And I did that through horses and through reading and through yoga at a very young age. So those were things that were priming me for the really good stuff. So I was getting little glimpses of things that would really be my lifesavers. But I was still in the throes of all the bad stuff because I was too young to really be able to go out on my own and, say, hey, you're abusive. I don't want to be with you anymore. I had to live in the environment because I had nowhere else to go.
How long was it, or before you stepped into uh, how you're bringing your work to the world now? Was there a time period in there where there was some more lessons that you had to learn, or some more things that you uncovered?
Oh, yes, there were many more lessons for sure. It wasn't just the 16, 17, 18-year-old trauma that I was going through. After that, there was a string more of more lessons and more lessons until I got to the point of being on my knees. And that was the real turning point
Mm.
because at that point, I had started teaching yoga when I was probably in my late 20s. I was starting to teach, but I still was going through a lot of really amazing things that were traumatic, of course, but I was getting a little bit better and a little bit better, but it was kind of like this rocky road. I would go up and down and up and down and up and down, kind of like the waves, but I was starting to learn and I was starting to grow. But I remember at one point, there was one more thing that knocked me to my knees and I was bloody and I was gasping. And that's when I had my big revelation. And that is when I actually heard the directions
Mm.
because I cried out for help. And when you cry out for help, a voice will answer you. It will answer you. And it was unmistakable,
Do you
unmistakable.
remember what that voice shared?
What it said? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I remembered crying in my studio. I had a yoga studio. And I had gone through such a terrible thing with someone because I just gave everything I had and gave my heart and was so there, but I was just bashed, really badly. Okay. And I remember being on my knees crying and saying, please help me, on my knees, literally screaming, please help me. And there was nobody there. It was me by myself, nobody around. And I'm screaming, I need you. I just kept saying, I need you. I need all of you. I just kept on saying, every one of you, I need you. And I remember calling to the masses of every creative being and every being that was out there. I just didn't want one person. I wanted the army. I needed the army. And the army came to my rescue. And I really heard, get up off of your knees. and I got up. And all of a sudden, when I stood up, I was filled with this flood of energy. It was like this plugging my finger into an electrical socket that was 100 times more powerful than a regular electrical socket. And this energy went through my body. And that's when I knew that I had the help right there that I needed. And it was like, once I was told, get up off of your knees in a
Mhm.
loving way, not get up. It was like, you don't belong there. You don't belong there. You don't belong in that position. And that's the feeling and that's the conveyance that I had gotten then. You don't belong there. You belong lifted. You belong exalted. You belong up there. And I was like, really? And now I'm sobbing and I'm like, really? And like, I'm saying, really? And then the electrical feelings through my body, they never went away.
Awesome.
They never went away. I've had them ever since. And now I walk around as this constant state of like feeling this great stuff all the time. And that day, Vince, was such a turning point for me because I did things after that I shocked myself. I shocked myself with the way I changed. And boy, let me tell you, my opponent had nowhere to run when I faced it. And it was like, whoa, where did she come from? What did she eat? What is she drinking? What did she take? But it was real. It wasn't a drug. It wasn't a pill. It wasn't anything. It was real. And it was really the power that is truly, truly in this universe that is everyone's birthright. Everyone's birthright. But unfortunately, people do not get silent enough or they're not in pain enough to really feel it. And that's the sad thing. Sometimes you really need to be in so much pain to be able to climb that spiritual ladder. And it's sad, but in a way, it's wonderful because when you feel that kind of pain and that kind of trauma, you actually find the doors that you need to open. They're there. You just have to be able to open the doors.
Awesome. Okay. Did you have a spiritual connection before that time frame?
Vince, there was something inside of me all along from when I was born. I can remember the earliest parts of my life feeling like I didn't fit in. I just didn't fit in. I would look at people and I would feel like I don't really like what I'm seeing. I don't like what I'm feeling. I don't fit in with that. And I just was really an outcast. I hate to say it, but I was an outcast because I was feeling something different inside of me all the time, all the time. And even when something bad would happen, there was something going on in me that would always say, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. But still, that didn't stop the bad things from happening just because I knew inside I was going to be okay. It was still happening, but I never gave up. I never said, I'm done. I always said, I know that I'm going to be okay. I know that I'm going to survive. Even at that time when I was really dead, I'm just going to tell you, I was dead. Okay. The trauma was so severe, but I knew inside of me that if it was my time to go, I was okay with that. I really was okay with that. But I kind of knew this isn't it. There's more for me. I really need to keep moving. I need to keep growing and going because there's something else for me to do. So yes, I always had something going on that was very hard to explain, but I felt it. It was real.
I want to thank you for sharing the words, there was something more for me, because there's something more for every one of us, no matter where we are in life, no matter what we've achieved. And I want that to really ring true and resonate with the imagination that there is something more. And whenever you have that thought or whenever you have that knowing, there's a reason for that. And that's for you to take the next step and become more of who you are and it's truly who you are. You've been that all along. It's just uncovering it and finding that aspect of you. So I want to thank you for using those exact words. Those are so powerful. So now you're up off your knees, and there's an interesting, a little strange, and a magnificent combination of interventional life coach, a yoga teacher, and a horse therapist, kind of all put together. Could you share that journey with us?
You know, it's really all so connected, even though they seem like they're different. First of all, the whole yoga aspect is the combination of the unity of your body, your mind, and your spirit. Um, the traditional yoga of today is very physical, and that's a beautiful thing. However, that's not true yoga. True yoga really is finding your true self, capital S, your true self. Okay, so that is yoga. The life coaching came about as a result of me teaching private students yoga, mainly women, okay? Not that men wouldn't be the same, but mainly women. And what would happen was I would have a student come in and we would start our yoga practice. She was on her mat, I was on mine, and I would be showing her what to do and helping her. And after a while, some of these women got to be very familiar with me and very comfortable. And I noticed that a lot of them were coming in and wanting to share problems, like with their husbands or their children or their jobs or whatever. And a lot of times what would happen, Vince, would be that they would start actually crying on the mat. And I would say, let's forget the yoga today. I'm putting tea on. You and I are going to sit and chat. And it became one of those things where now I would have women coming in just to talk because I was really good at giving them the help. And that's when I realized that the life coaching was something that I needed to get professional, a certification in, so that I could really help these women and give them the right stuff. And so that is where that came in. But the horses, when I was younger, I was drawn to horses because I was in so much pain. And horses were just such a natural way to heal. Horses are non-judgmental, and they're also prey animals. And that means that they have had to run for their lives from the predators, okay? Predators, two legs and four legs, okay? And so horses naturally have that same kind of a dynamic going on that people that have been traumatized have. And so when you really start to understand that and you bond with the horse, magic happens. It is unbelievable. I've seen people that were so closed and so anti, you know, therapy, and they get around the horse, and the next thing you know, they're opening up. And they're also getting power because here's a 1,200-pound animal that you are standing next to and bonding with, and maybe even taking around in a circle or teaching it something to do. And all of a sudden, that gives you this wonderful feeling of, wow, I'm important. This animal that's 1,200 pounds could kill me, but I'm bonding with it. So there's so many wonderful, beautiful aspects to all of it. And for me, it all blended perfectly because each one of those things is a part of my life.
One of the interesting things for me when it comes to horses is that I understood the concepts, or I've heard the concepts in the past about there's no separation, there is no duality, we're all one. The one energy is who we are, and what everything else is around us is that one energy. But riding a horse was the first time that I actually experienced the oneness, when there was a bit of fear that came through me or whatever, and the horse knew it. If I wanted to turn, all I had to do was think about it, and that was just enough pressure for the oneness of the animal and myself to know where to move, how to move, what I wanted, what then I learned how to be part of that oneness in understanding what the animal was going on. So horses are such a great way for us to experience unity or union if we allow that to happen.
You are so right. You are so right. And what you just said really resonates so true. The fact that your energy really does go into that horse, and that horse can feel everything that you even think. So you're just thinking, I want to turn, and the horse is turning automatically. And that's such a beautiful thing when you can really bond with that animal that way. And not only that, but getting out in nature on the horse and seeing how beautiful the trees are, if you are fortunate enough to do that. It's an experience that, unless you really have gone through it, it's very hard to describe. It really is kind of like becoming one with everything. You're bonded with this animal and you're part of nature. It's just so beautiful.
Can you give us an example? There's so many great things that you do, Giselle, that we could talk about. Half hours never enough time. But because of my life's experience with the horses and the fact that we have a young son who has had some horse therapy as he's gone through his addiction problems, could you give us an example of how a horse has affected someone's life?
Absolutely. I had a client. She still is kind of a client, but she's actually moving away now and she's healed so beautifully. She was in a seriously destructive marriage. She was in a marriage with so much abuse and so much pain. And she never really had courage. She didn't have the courage to stand up to her husband, who was very abusive physically, mentally, verbally, and every other way. And she always was cowering. She was always slumping, and she was always kind of like, in the corner, worried. But she reached out to me from yoga, and then I started taking her on as a life coaching client, and I started bringing her around my horse. When I started bringing her around my horse, it was almost like this magical connection. She was afraid to begin with. She wouldn't go near him. But after a while, she would just stand still and he wouldn't go near her because he knew that she was afraid. But eventually, her fear dropped a little bit and he started to inch a little closer. This went on over a period of quite a while. It was like a month. He would start inching closer and closer. And then when her fear dropped a little bit with that horse, her demeanor changed, her thought process changed, her choices changed. And she started voicing her opinion to her husband, telling him that it was no longer okay for him to do what he was doing. Well, of course, he got even more, a little more aggressive at that point. But she had enough of her own power at that point, after working with me and the horse for a while, that she stood up to him. And he basically was flabbergasted. And she left him. She left him and she divorced him. Now, I'm not saying that I'm happy that they got divorced, but I am happy that she stood up for herself. And I am happy that she's away from the abuse at this point. But I saw a transformation happen when she was in the ring with the horse, going from terrified in the center, and my horse wouldn't come near her. And then a little bit at a time, her fear would go a little bit away. The horse would come a little closer. And then the next week, a little closer. And the next week, a little closer, until finally she was hugging the horse, petting the horse, wanting to be one with the horse. And it really made a big difference. So much of a difference. There are others that I can tell you about, but I'll just give you that one for now. There are a lot of others that I can tell you about. But there are serious things that happen when people start to let down this feeling of, I have to protect myself. Because when you have that big wall up, it protects you from maybe that danger, but it also blocks the good.
So you've shared with us several times that you've had prompting, if you will, some of them pretty traumatic, and others that are just taking you in the direction of, oh, maybe I should be certified as a coach because this is happening. So as these promptings come along and you've been willing to follow them, it's taken you on a tremendous journey. Have you any promptings lately, or is there something more that might be coming that you'd like to share with the audience?
Well, the only thing that I can say is this. This is what's been going on lately, more and more. I am finding myself letting go of having to do more because I found that the more I was struggling to do, the unhappier I was feeling. And I'm very in tune with my feelings. I pay attention. And when something doesn't feel right, I have to stop and say, what is going on? So I found myself going into the rat race of I've got to get more clients and I've got to put more stuff out there and I have so much material right now that I give to people. I don't need to give anything else. I don't need to build anymore. But I found myself getting in that rut of trying harder and harder and harder and harder to reach more people, get more people, expand more, grow more, be this big force of nature where people are going to know who I am. And that was making me miserable. So I stopped. And I have to tell you, I'm getting more organic clients and people coming to me now that I'm not killing myself anymore. It's amazing. It's amazing. I'm working so much less hard to try to get more and more and more people. And I'm just letting it go. And I have to tell you something. There is a book that I never read before, but the title fascinated me because of what I'm actually going through in my own life. I'm basically surrendering, okay? And I came across a book called The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer. And I did read The Untethered Soul, which was fabulous. The Untethered Soul, which I absolutely loved. But I didn't even know about his other book called The Surrender Experiment. And when I realized that that is what I had been doing, that I've been doing lately, and how much more beautiful my life is becoming, I thought, wow, I think people need to know this. Stop working so darn hard. Just like be who you are. And I'm not saying don't work. We have to work. We need money. We need the paycheck. We need the money coming in. But if you find yourself hitting brick walls and you're getting frustrated and you are losing your health and your sanity, take a few steps back and see what you need to change. Because that might be something that you really need to
Well,
look
you
at.
have to create the space for new things to come in, and that's creating space. Believe it or not, we are at the end of our time. Could you share a piece of parting guidance that you want to make sure that everyone takes away from this podcast?
Yes, I really would love to tell people that they need to get silent and go inward. And it doesn't have to be for long durations. It doesn't have to be for a 30-minute meditation. Although if you can do that, I would highly recommend it. But even if it's just for a couple of minutes every day, get silent, get rid of the distractions, shut the phones, shut the computers, and just get silent for a little bit of time every day, because you need that. You need to be able to get rid of the clutter so that the true genius of you and the powerful universe can come through and give you its magic. So that is what I would really love for people to do
Well,
every
thank you.
single
And
day.
each and every one of us are geniuses, and this interview was genius. I appreciate you for what you bring to the world and sharing with us, Giselle.
Vince, thank you so much. This has been a real pleasure, and I'm so happy that you allowed me to share what I had with you. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you for joining us. On behalf of Mary, my business partner, and the entire team at Imagine Miracles, we want to wish you a miracle day.
You've completed this episode of The Miracle You, but we have plenty more to help you discover your own personal passion and purpose. Head over to themiracleyou.com for free resources to assist you on your journey, as well as register for our free webinar, Discover Your Miracle Life, 3 mind awakening steps toward your unique purpose, or apply for a one-on-one Your Life, Your Way breakthrough session and discover your next best step on your journey. All available exclusively on our website. That's themiracleyou.com. We look forward to sharing more experiences of passion, purpose, and life by design next time, right here on The Miracle You.